We're thrilled to have Marlo Fogelman from Marlo Marketing here today to share more about rethinking marketing in the time of COVID, and want to welcome her to join us here. Marlo is the founder and CEO, as I'd mentioned, of Marlo Marketing, a full-service integrated agency dedicated to a single purpose, delivering unsurpassed ROI to clients in the worlds of food, beverage, and hospitality. Marlo started out 16 years ago with a modest roster of clients, including Starbucks Coffee, Nantucket Wine Festival, and a handful of small restaurants, and has grown Marlo Marketing into a national agency recognized for combining style and substance to launch, promote, and build notable brands in the restaurant, hotel, travel, destination, leisure, and consumer product spaces. Some of her notable CPG clients have included brands both large and small, from Perdue to Plant Snacks, Narragansett Beer to Bully Boy Distillery, and snack factory Pretzel Crisps to Go Live. After earning her Juris Doctorate and Master's in International Relations from Boston University, Marlo segued into the high-energy world of creating public relations, quickly gaining recognition as an original and driving force in the industry. As a regular attendee at food and beverage events such as BevNet, Nosh, Expo, Fancy Food, and more, she is deeply connected to all aspects of the industry and thrives on helping brands create marketing strategies to exceed their business objectives. Marlo, we're thrilled to have you here. Thank you so much for sharing your time with our community and helping advise companies on how they can be maximizing their marketing efforts in the time of COVID. So with that, I will turn it over to you. As a quick reminder for all attendees, we will have Q&A at the end of this. So if you've got questions, you're welcome to send them to me directly through the chat, or at the time with which we switch to Q&A, we can unmute you and you can ask the question to Marlo directly. So with that, Marlo, turning it over to you.
Thank you, Lauren. Hi, everyone. Really great to be here. And to everyone on the Branch Food team, thank you so much for having me. So Lauren shared a bit about my company. So, you know, we specialize in 3 categories of hospitality, lifestyle, and CPG. Before we start, though, I just want to share a quick anecdote that I think truly speaks to how we differentiate ourselves in the marketplace. As Lauren mentioned, I'm actually an attorney by education. And when I fell into my first job in PR, I really had no idea what it was, but I figured at the very least, I would no longer be seen as a scum of the earth that everybody looks to attorneys as. I had no idea that marketing people were often held in even lower esteem. So at least with law, there's some barrier to entry with school, passing the exam, etc. But if I had a dime for every time someone said I'd be great at marketing, because I love to go to parties, I would be doing this call from my private island in the Caribbean, which I am definitely not doing right now. So it's truly become my mission to prove that marketing can be done thoughtfully, strategically, and with an eye towards ROI. So as Lauren mentioned, my background when I started the agency in 2004 was hospitality, but we started getting clients in the CPG space shortly thereafter. And so since that time, we've worked with startup and established brands throughout the US and have provided marketing services running the gamut from PR to digital, social to influencer relations, package design to advertising, all the while providing ongoing counsel around strategic direction. So I'm going to start today with a quick overview of the current situation, and then we're going to get into 5 things that brands are doing now to refine their marketing plans in order to set themselves up for success, both now and after Corona, whenever that may be. So as we all know, the COVID-19 crisis has literally changed the entire world, and it's changed consumer habits quite drastically. And that's been throwing the marketing world into flux, among other things. So obviously consumers are spending less overall, as many are nervous about their household income and potential future unknown economic impacts. Marketing Week recently cited that there was a 21% increase in online orders this March versus last. And in a poll conducted with members of the online influencer network Influencer, 41% said they were currently shopping online for items they generally wouldn't, like groceries, medicine, etc. So one impact of this change in behavior, as well as even something like in-store shopping that's become more of a get in and get out solo activity instead of the let's stroll through the aisles with the kids and see if anything jumps off the shelf, try a sample while shopping, etc., is that there's simply less opportunity for organic discovery. So as consumers become more thoughtful about what they will buy and how they will buy it, it's even more important for brands to give them a reason to believe in and seek out their products, as well as reach them in new and unexpected ways. So one of the first things that many brands immediately began doing back in March was evaluating their plans. Unfortunately, the pandemic presents constantly changing unknowns. So evaluating marketing plans has become an ongoing need as opposed to in the past where you may have created a 12 or 18 or even 24-month roadmap and then executed against it. So one example, a client of ours, Dably, it's an edible skincare supplement. About 2 weeks into their launch in March, lockdowns across the country went into effect. And this threw their plans for local market sampling and events in Austin, Texas, as well as a massive national media push out the window. With the media being non-responsive to anything unrelated to the current health crisis and consumers staying inside, they needed to evaluate their plans quickly to decide if they should pause efforts until the situation was clear or rethink their approach. They chose to rethink their approach, obviously. And so we shifted the marketing focus to social influencers and began pushing online sales in order to salvage the launch. It's been bumpy, but they are now seeing consistent sales and brand awareness is growing. And now we're in the process of brainstorming for ways to revert back to our original plan by considering 4 options in the still unknown COVID reality for that eventual launch in Austin. Another client is an interesting example. Go Live is a probiotic supplement. They are a brand new client of the agency as of March, and they came to us after the stay-at-home orders and health crisis were in full swing. So they saw an opportunity to invest further in their growth by bringing on an external partner to help them respectfully benefit from the current climate with their line of products that boost immune health. I personally have had to travel over the past few months, and I will tell you that during the thick of it, I was taking 1, if not 2 a day to try and keep my immune health in check. And I still take it now, probably 4 to 5 times a week, but that moment in time absolutely drove me to purchase. So we've worked with them to relaunch their social channels and to kick off a national media push aimed at growing the brand awareness and strengthening the connection between their products and overall health, which is now for pretty much everyone more than ever a top consumer concern. The next thing brands are doing is pivoting their focus as a result of the lockdowns and social distancing rules. For example, in 2020, our longtime client, Narragansett Beer, was set to celebrate milestones, including their 130th anniversary, the opening of a new brewery in Providence, with events, sampling opportunities, and parties. So obviously large gatherings are impossible. So they had to think about how they could save those plans and save those celebrations by just focusing in different areas to remain top of mind. So instead, they shifted as many scheduled events as possible to virtual and Facebook Live events, as well as hosted a series of Facebook Live brewery tours to update and build excitement as they progress to opening. They launched a new Buy Neighbor initiative, connect with and support local Rhode Island businesses that has supported their brand over the years. They made sure to stay top of mind and relevant with their on-premise accounts by dropping off beers and swag to hospitality workers at their home that was then pushed out all across social. And they relaunched old merchandise like their popular bandanas for use as masks to help keep everyone safe and to keep being at the top of mind. So another example that you guys might have seen of brands pivoting is how retailers and distributors are continuing to do product discovery in the face of trade show cancellations like Expo West and Fancy Food. Thrive Market, Meijer, and KeHE are just a few who have partnered with an online platform to host their product sourcing campaigns in place of the in-person discovery that they would traditionally do at the shows. The third thing brands are doing is launching new initiatives in order to stay in the news as well as keep their staff busy. So with the crisis, Boston's first craft distillery, Bully Boy, saw their entire on-premise piece of their business vanish. So wanting to not only be a part of the solution and give back to their community, but also figure out how they could stay top of mind with key audiences very early on when there began to be shortages with hand sanitizer, they decided to use a distillery to create some. At first, everything they made was donated to essential businesses, but ultimately it was made available for sale as part of a nonprofit collaboration with Organic Bath Company in Charlestown. So let's be super clear, this definitely did not cover the sales loss from the closure of their own distillery bar and on-premise sales, but it kept their employees busy, it helped the local community, it generated positive publicity locally and nationally, and it kept them relevant and top of mind in a meaningful way. I'm sure we can all think of tons of other brands that have shifted resources to products that give back, from GM making respirators, Parachute and others making masks. The list goes on and on. We can surmise, I think it's pretty fair to say, that most brands have lost revenue because of COVID. But even when sales are off the charts, think of brands like Purell, Clorox, that kind of thing, sometimes other resulting factors then come into play that forces them to make hard decisions about where and how to allocate resources. One example, a client of ours, Plant Snacks, is a cassava root chip. So they were super fortunate to see their sales increase at the onset of the crisis, with grocery store hoarding, snacking, more snacking, and consumers flocking to buy products that were seen as healthier. However, this increase in demand, coupled with their supply chain, distribution, and shipping issues that came because of COVID, quickly put them in the position of needing to rethink their planned out 2020 budget. So while it was obviously important to maintain their consumer-facing marketing momentum, because of COVID, they had no choice but to reallocate resources to operations. So we worked with them to rethink their approach and made quick shifts in the marketing budget so they could reallocate money from marketing to finding like a second distribution hub, finding additional suppliers to end the bottleneck. These were all costs that they were planning on spending in 2021. And so they had to move it up earlier as a result of the situation. And last, but certainly not least, now is definitely the time to invest in your brand. Everything is a bit slower. Maybe your slower sales or production are giving you some breathing room to focus. Or like us, you're finding that media are less responsive. They want to accept samples and they're not interested in hearing about non-essential products. So you're sort of putting your PR outreach on hold. It just makes it a great time to reevaluate your channels, your branding, your website, your social channels, your packaging, your sales channels, basically all the things that need that time and focus, which is sometimes hard when you're on the trade show circuit dealing with distributors, et cetera. And I can also tell you, unfortunately, speaking from experience, is that it's a great time to, get deals from some partners. Any business that has been hit by this, that has to hire staff back for the PPP, or may just have bandwidth that they're looking to fill, will likely take work on at rates much lower now than they were willing to do just a few months ago. So, I firmly believe that if any business can survive this period, the world is going to be your oyster. So it's hard, it's tough, but there's definitely things that can be done to help you get through it and set you up for tremendous success on the other side. So just to recap, a few simple steps to consider can make all the difference in how you make it through. Evaluate your plans. Stop the media outreach isn't driving sales, or rethink your social strategy, or invest more in digital marketing to drive online. Pivot your focus. Find creative ways to get in front of buyers and make up for canceled trade shows and events. Shift your budget to find more internal or external efficiencies. And launch initiatives to help. Rethink how you can help your community with what is already at your fingertips. Finally, invest in yourself. Use this new normal to take stock in your overarching marketing plan. So that's what I've got. We're here for you. I'm happy to take some questions now, and if anything else comes up, in the future, and you just want to pop over an email, I'm happy to respond and be of help if we can.
Great. Thank you very much, Marlo. Great insights and many familiar brands on those slides that are local to Boston, are such great contributors to our food community here. And I think people are looking for ways to support. So thank you for sharing those. One question that we did get through the chat, and again, we would encourage people to submit your questions to the host via the chat or raise your hand digitally, and we will unmute you to be able to ask it. One question we did get was around marketing channels, which ones to focus on. I think just in reflection of what we've seen on the marketing channels front, some of the digital channels are also opportunities for selling. People are selling right through those channels. So have you seen any, first, what are the channels people can be using, and have you seen particularly creative language or ways that people are using them today versus what they were doing prior to COVID?
Yeah, well, I think first the question would be, where are you selling, right? So if you're not selling online, then, digital might not make sense. But, one of the things that we've definitely experienced that I spoke about was with like a brand like Dabbly. I mean, it's a very cool product. It's a edible gummy or a liquid shot that's it's sort of sunscreen from the inside out. It's not, but it's really about, skin health. And even if we wanted to get the product in the hands of media right now, we can't, because nobody's working in their offices and people aren't going to give us their home addresses. And even if they do, the media that we have been in touch with, they don't care. The conversation has been, and this was true in March as much as it is, today, almost June, they only care about the stuff that's essential. And as great as this product might be and as relevant and timely as it might be going into summer, it's just not something that they're going to write about right now. So if you are putting money, for example, into a public relations strategy, it's not the right approach. So we switched it to more of an influencer strategy. They are sold online. And so we were able to do that and drive online sales. And with influencers, you're able to, you always, if you're sending product, you're always sending it to their home address. And so that really didn't change anything. And so we were able to make that switch and pivot. So, digital, if you're online, if you've got online channels, absolutely. I mean, that would be the most direct way to impact and see the impact that you're having. You could also use the time to set up, if you were ever going to think about, a brand ambassador program or an affiliate program. This is a great time to start building that up so that in 3 months or 6 months or whenever you'd be ready to launch that, you sort of had all those pieces in place. So I think it really ultimately will depend on what each brand's sales channels are to answer that question, but those are just some examples of how various brands might think of something.
Yeah, well, and I think you're touching on an interesting point there related to brands that, may have anticipated launching and getting into retail, but the opportunity to do so has now been pushed off in some cases for brands until 2021. So, what are some ways that those brands what can they be doing during this time? I know some of them are our members here at Branch Food. Unfortunately, they didn't make it onto store shelves, and now that's been put off. So in the meantime, as they're still trying to grow their brand, exercising those digital channels are still very, very relevant for them to be doing so. It's just, and when they finally do launch and have an audience that they can share that with, it's there, and they've been communicating with them all along.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. We had a client that was set to go in Whole Foods and do basically a takeover where they were going to have tons of, end caps and sampling and, whatever. And that got canceled very early on. And we were actually a little bit surprised when it did get canceled. And, clearly not long after that, it became very clear as to why it was. But, we all have to remember, and I think we need to give ourselves, a little bit of slack that, I found an email the other day that I had sent to my team and my clients on March 11th, when I decided to close the office and have my team start working from home. And I sent it to my COO. I was like, God, we were so naive, we'll be back in a couple of weeks, so I think one of the biggest challenges with this, and for anybody who plans, right? I mean, you start a business, you have a business plan, you have it, I'm going to go to Fancy Food, I'm going to be there and I'm going to be able to meet these people. And then I'm going to go and with my broker and, work and get into these channels, and everybody has a plan, you work against it. And not only are we all in that situation where we can't have a plan and we can't work against it in the way that we traditionally may have, it's incredibly hard even in this new normal to have a plan, because this new normal is literally changing every day. And so, I would just encourage, everybody to, sort of, if you're, thinking, oh, I should be doing more, cut yourself some slack, because it's a very, very hard environment to, think about that from. The one thing I will say that you can completely own, that it's your channel. That's how you're presenting your brand. So it's your social channels. This is a great time to really get those in a really robust way, to engage and to comment and to follow like brands and to build up that channel. It's a great way to try and connect with other brands like yours. So you can set yourself up for strategic partnerships or relationships down the line. For a lot of the brands that we manage their social, the way that we grow their organic reach is by doing these kinds of partnerships. So we'll reach out. We have a lot of brands in the natural products category. So we'll reach out to other brands that are similar but not competitive and say, hey, do you want to do a contest or a giveaway or whatever? And so then we're benefiting from their audience and they're benefiting from our audience, and hopefully everybody's benefiting and growing together. So I think the one thing that you can control in any situation is everything that you own. So that's your package, that's your website, that's your social channels, that's the way that you talk about yourself, that's the way that you sell yourself in a sales sheet. So I think this is a great time to really focus and just get that stuff so tight that when you are able to go back out in whatever way that might look like, you've just got your entire package ready to go and ready to just, get your growth, off the charts.
Mm-hmm. Great. Another question that came in, have you seen any examples of companies adapting experiential marketing efforts to replace practices like sampling in store? Obviously, the in-person opportunities have been very limited, but any other creative, translating perhaps what would be experiential in person to online and digital in any way?
That's a great question. And it's something that a lot of us are talking about, right? Because it's highly unlikely there's going to be any sampling in grocery or, the street teams or, that sort of thing. I haven't, personally seen a lot of it yet. I think it's something that people are trying to figure out. I mean, when you look at some areas of the country, anybody who saw any of the coverage, down in Alabama and Texas and Missouri, over Memorial Day weekend, there certainly could be, street team sampling stuff going on down in those places, So I think every market's going to be a little bit different. I think it's an opportunity to be creative, So for example, for Dabbly, as we think about what we're going to do, how we're going to launch in Austin, because that's still the plan. And like I said before, the client sort of charged us with 4 scenarios, Austin during COVID, Austin post-COVID, Austin, whatever they were, to think about how we might do that. And so, for example, we were thinking, okay, what are the places in Austin where people are hanging outside? Or is there a yoga studio that we could partner with that maybe is doing outdoor classes, because it's safer to have everybody outside, and that we could, have a sponsorship where we're sampling, we're, giving some cash. There's a juice bar on one of the, I forget what it's called, but some big popular greenway down there. And there's a big juice company. So do we say, okay, can we give you product? Maybe we pay them, give them product, and every customer who comes in and orders juice or, whatever, would get a sample of Dabbly. So I think there's a big opportunity to be creative. And I think a lot of businesses that might not have thought this way before are going to be thinking about it differently now, because you have to, and not just in the CPG space, but in the hospitality space, in street team kinds of things. I think there's going to be an opportunity to have more reach with less dollars for a while in a lot of different categories.
Mm-hmm. And given the fact that we're, there's somewhat of a timeline in place now, Massachusetts is going to start allowing openings starting on June 8th. Do you see any of those types of conversations starting to happen now, or, being picked up where they left off, perhaps pre-COVID? Are people thinking about collaborations right now on the marketing front, or is that something that is still a little, we're getting ahead of ourselves here?
I think that's the challenge, right? The states are reopening, and what does that mean? But we can see in some of the states that are reopening that their numbers are going up. And so, if the goal was to flatten the curve, if we have to do that again, what will that mean? I can speak, on the hospitality side of things. there's still no information. So, those folks are totally, in the dark about what's going on, and everything, for example, in Massachusetts is based on, how, depending on how these 2 weeks go, then we're going to make a decision then. And so it just doesn't really provide a lot of clear confidence, or direction, that if you wait until this date, if somebody could say, hey, listen, as of August 1st or October 31, you're good to go, then that would be very easy for everybody to plan. Okay, what can we do between now and then? And then great, August 1st, we're going. But I think that's one of the biggest challenges with the situation, just the uncertainty of where everybody is going to be. And there's just no answer. Nobody knows.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think it only remains to be seen what is possible. And in the meantime, I think you've given our attendees here a lot of creative ideas for how they may be able to manage this time in the meantime. So I know we're coming to 1:30. Marlo, we want to thank you for your time. We had so many more questions and we were able to sort of relay here, but for those of you that wrote in and have continued questions for Marlo, please feel free to reach out to her directly at her information provided on the screen, or connect with us at branchfood, info@branchfood.com, and we're happy to make an introduction to her team to help any of you who are interested in learning more about what they do and how they help brands grow their recognition and online kind of brand. So thank you all for joining. Thank you so much, Marlo, for being here and sharing this insight. It's a pleasure, as always, to hear from you and learn from you. As a quick reminder, this recording will be made available on our YouTube page. So go to YouTube and search Branch Food, or probably by the end of today, the recording will be available on our website at branchfood.com/servingupsupport, which is where you can find all past recordings as well as future ones. And we hope to have all of you back next week. We will be resuming with our Serving Up Support series with a whole host of new speakers. So please tune in, and you'll hear from us via email if you've signed up for anything in the past. So thank you again, Marlo. Thank you to the Marlo team as well for being part of this and helping us promote this session. We look forward to crossing paths again in the future.